nice to have you back again. I have been so busy. I made sure that I wasn't late tonight. Sorry about being late yesterday. It wasn't good. However, not late today. Got some quite short chapters here. So I am going to just read four chapters tonight, I think. Okay, so not sure where I put my specs. And here I thought, oh, so ready, you know. However ready I get, I am never ready. Oh, there they are. Okay, luckily I have 2 pairs of glasses. So, right, we are on chapter 19. Palmer Conway. I'm going to Joburg with Palmer Conway today, Rose sang out. Have you remembered, Jack? Yes, Jack answered. Have fun. I've got some special shopping to do, Rose said with a casual smile. I'll be back late. Are you sure you'll be all right? Of course, Jack answered, giving her a hug. By the way, who is this Palmer Conway? You seem to be going out with him a lot. Yes, I suppose I am, Rose said. I met him at the singles group I go to with Gideon van Jaarsveld. He's fairly new in town and I'm showing him around. Well, I'm off now. She blew him a kiss and with a wave of her hand was gone. That afternoon Jack found himself at his grandfather's house. Pleased to see you, my boy. His grandfather was in his study, photographs spread out over every surface. Your grandmother's gone off to Johannesburg for a few days, doing some last-minute Christmas shopping. That's funny. Mother's doing the same. So, what are you up to, Grandad? I'm keeping myself busy, sorting out these old photographs. I should have done this years ago. I also thought I might make a collage of your father's life in pictures for your grandmother as a Christmas present. She's already struggling with the fact that we'll be celebrating Christmas without him. His words were like a physical blow to Jack. He worked hard at ignoring the reality of his father's death and masking his grief, putting on a brave front for his mother and his friends, but every now and again it hit him. Jack bit his lip as a wave of sadness engulfed him. Seeing this, his grandfather said hastily, "What can I do for you?" "Nothing, Grandpa. I was just passing and I thought I'd pop in." "I'm glad you did, my boy. Have a look at some of these old pictures." Jack's grandfather picked up picture after picture, identifying relatives and commenting on some questionable antics they got up to. Soon Jack was laughing with him at the stories of the old reprobates. "Quite a few skeletons in the cupboard, you might say," his grandfather said. "My father, Percy, told me that this was his grandfather, Jonathan Sommerfeld. That would make him your great-great-great-grandfather. He was a very bad hat by all reports, a remittance man sent over to the colonies to get him away from his respectable family. Handsome fellow, though. He ended up in this neck of the woods as a miner." "Who are these two?" asked Jack, holding up a snap of 2 young men with their arms round each other's shoulders and huge smiles on their faces. "That one's a mystery," confessed his grandfather. He turned the photo over and read, "Happy Days in Lydenburg." "I just don't know," he confessed. Then he picked up a portrait-sized picture and his face softened. "Here's a picture of your mother when your grandmother and I first met her. I think it's my favorite picture of her of all time." Jack held the picture in his hand. His mother was standing in a street in Johannesburg, wearing a business suit and carrying a briefcase. She looked very young and sweet and earnest. "And your mother is all well with her?" asked his grandfather, quietly. Suddenly it hit Jack. That was what he wanted to ask about. "Grandad, she's taken up with this guy Palmer Conway." He opened his mouth to explain his feelings, then closed it again. All he was going on was some generalized feeling of unease, which his grandfather would no doubt dismiss as rubbish. Have you heard of him? Not really. I met him first at your birthday party at the Cocoa Pan. All I really know is he's from Johannesburg and he bought the garage on Main Street. He's making a real success of it from what I hear. He started a road transport business into Swaziland, which they say is going very well. You're going to think I'm stupid, but I have a really bad feeling about him. Do you think you could make a few inquiries and get some background on him for me? His grandfather started to laugh, but one look at his grandson's face and all the desire to laugh left him. Of course I will, son, he said, giving Jack a comforting hug. How serious is this? I can ask about him at the club. Thanks, that would be great, Jack said. When Jack came to visit a few days later, his grandfather had little of real importance to share. He was a businessman in Johannesburg, he told Jack. Import and export, by the sounds of it. He had business links with Colombia and other South American countries, which I thought might be significant, but my inquiries led me nowhere. As far as I have been able to discover, he is just your average run-of-the-mill businessman who has done quite well up to now. Why he decided to relocate to Barberton is a mystery. Well, thanks again, Grandad, Jack said, disappointment rising in him. I asked a fellow I know up there in the Highveld to see if he could find out a bit about him. He's a private detective. I should get a report from him soon. I'll let you know what he comes back with as soon as I hear. What exactly are you expecting to discover about this Palmer Conway fellow? I'm not sure. I'm convinced there's something fishy about the man, and... Jack looked at his grandfather unhappily, aware of his opinion of Rose, wanting to protect her, and at all costs not wanting to be disloyal. Guy seemed to understand. One thing I did find out, he admitted, which is more in the nature of gossip than the facts you are after, was that when Palmer Conway was quite a young man, he married a rich heiress who was tragically killed in a car accident. Then, believe it or not, he married again, also to a wealthy woman. She, too, was killed in a boating accident, I believe, leaving him with a daughter to bring up on his own. I know of her, Jack said, Alyssa Conway. She's very rough. She lives in Barberton but goes to school in Nelspruit. Barberton Hoërskool is not good enough for her. Forgive me for repeating more gossip, his grandfather said, but I also heard that he's a gambler. Apparently there's a gambling den somewhere in town, and he is a frequent visitor. Jack felt himself redden. He didn't want his grandfather to know about his new passion, the gambling that was the only way he could keep his feelings of alienation and unhappiness at bay. It doesn't mean he's a villain of any sort, I suppose. I just have a bad feeling about him. He brooded a bit, brows drawn, while his grandfather watched him. Jack was remembering the night of his 18th birthday party and the moment when he pulled the car keys out of the little suede bag. He happened to look up, and he intercepted a strange look on Palmer Conway's face. The man was staring at his mother, with avarice written all over his face and a predatory expression in his eyes. Jack shook his head and managed to break the spell of the unwelcome thoughts. Thank you for all you found out, he told his grandfather. Please let me know if what your man in Johannesburg says. He was disappointed when he heard from his grandfather that there was nothing of note to report. Palmer Conway had never been convicted of any crime. He took regular holidays in South America. He seemed to have a large bank balance, so no help at all, really. With that, Jack had to be content. Chapter 20. Gambling. After that night with Timothy, Jack started visiting the cellar, at first once or twice a week, then more and more often. He loved the fellowship and the friendliness. There's no way I could become a gambling addict, is there? He asked himself. Then he laughed at the ludicrous idea. Nevertheless, Jack's gambling seemed to be taking over his life, and he saw less and less of his friends. He loved the challenge of the cards, especially as he seemed to have a talent for winning. When he was able to visit the cellar, he played cards with a determination and focus that his school teachers would have found admirable. Even so, he found the conversation intrusive, although he became quite knowledgeable about what was going on in Barberton. He learned of all the relationship scandals, including opinions about his aunt and Mynheer de Villiers, and the latest drug and criminal activities operating on the streets. The list went on. Timothy welcomed Jack into his world, and Jack fitted in with his lackadaisical friend. The cellar was always crowded with laughing, irrepressible teenagers bent on having a good time, full of silliness and weak jokes. Jack hardly registered when the population of the cellar changed. Rumours were rife that the house had finally been sold, to Palmer Conway no less, and that he was revamping the gambling den. Older men seemed to fill the seats at the tables, and more money changed hands. Sexy waitresses, who were actually schoolgirls from the area, moved around the room, keeping the glasses filled. Jack found the drinks empowering. He felt invincible, and he bet faster and with more abandon. Christmas Day came and went, as did New Year's Day, 1996. What did it hold? One by one, Jack's friends returned home. Parents went back to work, and life returned to normal. Part 3. Barberton Hoërskool, 1996. Chapter 21. Changing Fortunes. School opened. The final year of school had arrived at last for Jack and his classmates. The beginning of the year was a busy time. All the prefects were dealing with student affairs, running welcome functions for the new students, and taking on new responsibilities. Their final exam seemed far in the future. One of Jack's duties was bicycle shed patrol, checking up that everyone parked their bikes properly and locked them. He was helping one of the students when he saw innocent Kahari plodding along the dusty cycle track, head bent. "Innocent," Jack called. "Hurry up, where's your bike? I'm just about to lock the bicycle shed." "I'm walking today," Innocent said. "Not that that's any of your business." Jack was taken aback. "I'm just asking, man," he said. "And I'm not your man," said Innocent, kicking up dust and striding off. Jack was flabbergasted. When Innocent had taken over the care of Hero, the two boys seemed to be on the way to calling a truce. Then there'd been that time at Jack's birthday, when he and Innocent had momentarily bonded. Nothing had prepared Jack for this present hostility. He considered what he should do. He ran after Innocent, grabbing him by the arm. But when he opened his mouth to tell Innocent a few home truths, he almost unconsciously registered that Innocent's shirt was creased and dirty. His usually cheerful smile was missing, and a sheen of tears sparkled in his eyes. He dropped his hands from Innocent's arm and muttered, "What's wrong with you?" At that moment the bell rang, and with a glowering look Innocent headed towards the classroom. Jack turned back to the bicycle shed and supervised a few latecomers, then locked the shed and went to hand in the key at the office. He had a free period, so he went towards the prefect's lounge when his aunt came out of her office. On the spur of the moment, he asked, "Do you have a moment?" "Sure, come on in," she said with a smile. Facing her, he could not speak. How was he going to talk about things he suspected when he had no evidence? She looked at him and realized that he was struggling to express himself. "So, what is it you wanted to talk about?" she tried to encourage him. "I wanted to ask your advice. I think there's a problem with Innocent Kahari. Today I saw him coming to school on foot, not riding his bike, and not boasting about what a prestigious model it is. He's usually neatly turned out, I'll say that for him, but today he was looking scruffy. It was so not him. Do you know if there's anything going on? I think there is. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. Leave it with me and I'll try and find out what's going on. Thanks, Auntie Elle. You're the best. Miss Summerfield to you at school, please. The next time he spoke to his aunt, she had unhappy news for him. Grace Kahari was evicted from her house in the coloured area. Yes, I know about that. I found out quite early in the Christmas holidays. Timothy told me. Elaine gave him a surprised look. Timothy? Oh, I didn't realize you were on friendly terms. Not really. Jack was hesitant and hoped she wasn't going to probe further. Did you know that your mother was trying to sell the property? I heard something about it. She and Gideon van Jaarsveld have meetings all the time. He's helping her with the estate. She doesn't really talk to me about that kind of stuff. Your granddad has been trying to help Grace and got her a position at the magistrate's court. But the other women working there wouldn't accept her, and as soon as he went off to the Seychelles, they made sure she was fired. I don't know where she's living now, but I heard she's earning money as a house cleaner. Jack was dumbstruck. He looked at his aunt in horror. Don't say anything, she said, hugging him. He stood unresponsive, misery in his eyes. I'm on the case. Grandad is due back next week. Leave it with me. There are some things you can't do anything about, Jack. Jack turned on his heel and strode away, shocked at what his aunt had revealed. Chapter 22, The Field Trip. His aunt just wouldn't learn, Jack had to admit. Her latest plan, in which she was trying to involve Jack, was to take her Standard 6 class on a field trip to visit the mines, hear how Barberton was founded, and to end up at the aerial cable cars. Excite the students about the town, stir their loyalty to Barberton, and they would be hooked, she explained to Jack. Then, naturally, their loyalty to Barberton would transform into loyalty to the school. Elaine Summerfield was nothing if not determined. On Thursday morning, she arrived early at the school and met up with the geography teacher, Malcolm Porter, who was delighted to join her as he had his own agenda to push. Jack, Kate, and Adam were included in the team to help with the excited students, who were happy to be missing a day in the classroom. At 7:30, they all boarded the bus and set off. Their first stop was to the appropriately named Crystal River. The students tumbled out of the bus, chattering happily. Line up here, called Jack, as he and Adam sorted them into rough rows. Kate walked down each row, liberally dispersing suntan cream and bullying them all into putting on their floppy hats. It was a lovely, low-felt morning that held the promise of becoming very hot later. Elaine addressed them. Today you will learn some names and dates. There were loud groans from the students. And you'll get an idea of one of the many ways that Barberton is unique. So take it away, our puppeteers. Jack sprang into action. He was beginning to fancy himself as a carpenter, and for the occasion he had made a wooden stand that looked a bit like a narrow headboard. A wooden bar at the top joined two upright poles, and Jack and Kate had fashioned makeshift curtains. Adam propped up the contraption between two rocks, then settled himself down on the side to act as a narrator. Imagine yourself back in the year 1884, Adam began, and immediately the curtains sprang back, and two comical old miners appeared on the stage, sitting on rocks at the side of a stream. I'm Henry Barber, said one. And I'm his brother, Fred Barber, said the other. We have discovered gold in the Crystal River. You weren't the first, came a spectral voice. I, Tom McLaughlin, found the first traces of alluvial gold 10 years ago. A ghostly figure swept through the air behind the barbers. Yes, yes, said Henry impatiently, but we're going to start a town here, and we will call it Barber Town. After us, said the second puppet. Tee-hee, and Barberton would be better, don't you think? No, no, Barber Town, Barber Town. The first puppet picked up a large spade and started to pound his companion. The students laughed at their antics. The second puppet swung his body around to escape the blows from the shovel and announced, and we're going to establish a mine here and call it the Sheba Mine. Kate's curtains dropped. Mr. Porter, red-faced and mopping his brow in the Barberton heat, continued the story. That's exactly what happened. Henry and Fred established the Sheba Mine. Today we have 4 gold mines in Barberton. Sheba, new consort, Agnes, which is the main producer of gold and silver, and let's not forget Fairview, which is the only South African mine that has a biox plant to extract gold. His voice became more enthusiastic. We've been talking in geography about the environment and how essential it is to our well-being. The students wriggled in their seats and a restless hum filled the air. Mr. Porter seemed unaware and continued happily. Biox is an eco-friendly process of retrieving gold from the sulfide that is found in the surrounding gold ore. The mutterings grew to a rumbling, but Mr. Porter continued, Biox stands for biological oxidation. Elaine interrupted, So fascinating. Well, the next thing we're going to do is to pan for gold, exactly as Henry and Fred did. The curtain flew up on the puppet theatre stage, and the puppets quickly explained the process. Then the students spent the next 2 hours panning for gold. They set to it with a will. It was back-breaking work, but no one would have guessed from the happy chatter. That's right, Adam encouraged 2 mischievous boys, Solomon and Aaron. Grab that big flat-bottomed pan and fill it with gravel and soil from where the current in the stream is the slowest. Immerse your pan in water, Jack urged. Make sure everything is thoroughly wet. That's right. Break up the lumps of clay and throw out the rocks. Now, here's the tricky bit. Keep your pan under the water and shake it at the same time in a circle. Sort of gyrate like Elvis. One of your parents' favourites, I'll bet. Elvis the pelvis, they called him. The standard sixes entered the spirit of the exercise and with much giggling managed to do what Jack told them. Loud laughter came from Jack's group, where Aaron was circling the pan as Jack instructed, but Solomon was splashing him and preventing him from shaking it. He's a handful, that Solomon, Mr. Porter said, coming up to where Jack stood on the river bank. I agree, Jack said. He's messing around and being a nuisance. I'm about to go and force him to shake the pan. Don't do that. It's good to see him enjoying himself. His mother has been in the TB sanatorium in Barberton for the last 4 months, and his father's been looking after him. It's not the same. Solomon misses his mother terribly. Well, can't he go and visit her? Jack asked in surprise. I've driven past the sanatorium. It's on the aerodrome road, isn't it? It looks like a fortress. It's a locked facility, Mr. Porter explained. He can't just go and visit her. TB is the bane of many people's existence in South Africa. Poor little fellow. Their attention was called to the group in the river. Good work, Adam called out. See how the particles have settled and the lighter material has come to the surface? Now tilt your pan and wash off that surface material. We've got gold here, Kate suddenly shouted. Everyone crowded around and saw in the bottom of the pan the black sands and winking in the sunlight the traces of gold ore. Mr. Porter had salted the river downstream of the boulders and on the inner sides of the banks. The excitement level grew to a new high as each boy and girl gyrated and giggled and tipped and searched desperately for a strike. Mr. Porter set up a station on one of the boulders with his scales and a notepad to record the amount of gold that was panned. When Elaine called a halt, a groan went up, but most of the students were hungry at this stage, and the shrieks and yells and laughter that had accompanied the search for gold gave way to a muted hum of contentment as they found places on the riverbank to sit and eat and exchange stories. They all jumped back into the bus at midday and drove off to Fairview Mine. The mine manager led a tour of the mine and explained the concept of open cast mining. Mr. Porter had a chance to explain again the importance of gold as an export and a way South Africa earned foreign currency. Then they all boarded the bus once again. "Where are we headed now?" asked Solomon. "Back to Barberton," Jack told him. "Look, here we are already at the railway station. And we're just in time to see the giant aerial cable car come in from Swaziland, carrying its load of asbestos ore," Adam said. "It's such an awesome sight." "It's the longest aerial cableway in the world," Jack said. There was a somber silence as they all contemplated the impressive feat of engineering. "Now back to school," called Elaine. A buzz of happy chatter accompanied them all the way home. Awesome. Right. So tomorrow we're on chapter 23. Okay. Well, that's it then. I'm done. Hope you enjoyed that. And I'll be back in tomorrow.